Today, I have yet another clear-cut example of scumbag sellers in the sports card community looking to rip off their fellow collectors and customers with some, shady and unethical behavior, in my opinion. Now, this involves a Brock Purdy true RPA from NT. It's in a PSA authenticated slab, and what I've seen here is pretty unacceptable, like I just said. This won't be anything new. We've seen this stuff or similar things happen for many, many years, but it's one of those things that I want to serve as a reminder for each and every one of you on making sure you're doing your due diligence when you're buying cards, especially cards to this amount of money. Now, this was brought to my attention through some posts on Twitter. The one who started, I think it was 8th Wonder Cards, Jacob Stevens, who shared this screenshot from Instagram, and it's from Stack and Sports, who talks through a deal that he did at a recent card show. I don't recall exactly which card show it was, but he feels like the seller did him dirty and tried to intentionally deceive him. And like you said, it's a Brock Purdy true RPA, and you can sort of see here there's a circle over the price tag, and that's because there is damage in the bottom right corner that the price tag is covering, which looks like it was obviously done on purpose, right? The price tag was put there in order to hide the damage, in my opinion. He talks through that it's his fault for not taking it out of the sleeve before buying the card. But if you ask him about a card like this, he'll always disclose the damage. So would I. And you'd almost expect any dealer to be doing that, right? To sort of have it done like this, it implies that it was done in order to hide the damage and try and deceive someone. Now, he does say the dealer gave him some money back, but in a situation like this, you'd expect to see a full refund, in my opinion. He goes on to say that he's learned a valuable lesson, but he's still going to end up losing money on this particular card, given the mistake on his part. Now, this is what the card looks like when it's out of the sleeve, and you can clearly see here there is significant damage to that bottom right corner, which is, coincidentally where that price sticker was. And I want to hear what you guys have to say down below on this particular instance, because I think it's a really shitty thing to do, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, from this seller. It doesn't seem ethical, it seems unprofessional, and it's not something you sort of expect to see happen in this space. Whilst yes, pushback will come, and like I said, my reminder is that you guys need to be doing your own research. Some onus has to go back on the buyer. They should be knowing what they're buying before they're buying it. There's nothing wrong with taking it out of the slab. Sometimes mistakes happen. Taking it out of the sleeve is what I meant. Some responsibility, and if not most of it, has to go back to the buyer themselves. But I would have liked to have seen the seller disclose this, and the fact they put the price sticker there tells me they were intentionally trying to hide it, and that tells me you're a person I don't want to deal with. And if you're going to sit there and try and defend the dealer in that particular instance, then again, I don't want to deal with you, because it's unethical, and it's not something that you should be seeing happen in this space, right? We're here to help each other out, not rip each other off, right? And I know some of you guys might say, well, maybe the dealer didn't know and they accidentally placed the sticker there accidentally, like I just said, but I find that incredibly odd, that the fact that you're going to put a sticker right where the damage is and then happen to forget about it on a $7,500 card, I don't buy it. But let's say that is the truth, right? I would have expected the seller in that particular instance, when the buyer came back to them, to say, well, shit, I didn't mean to cover that, or if I did, I completely forgot the card was damaged. Here's your money back, I'll take the card back, right? Try and make the whole thing right, not give them, a partial credit or some BS, right? It doesn't sit right with me. And the fact that you've got people out there, trying to defend the seller or trying to defend their tactics is insane to me. Like, we're a community, we're meant to be helping each other out. I don't get stuff like this. And whilst it's nothing new, we see it happen all the time. Mistakes happen when you go to shows, and I just want to serve as a reminder that these guys are not going to look out for you. They're going to keep trying to rip you off. They're going to look for these edges. You need to remember it. You need to call it out when you do see it. Name and shame the dealers, and make sure that people are not dealing with them in the future, because that's the only way they're going to learn. Because if you want to, maintain these, BS business practices, you deserve to have people off the back of that saying they don't want to deal with you, and you deserve to have, income loss off the back of that, in my opinion. And I want to hear whether or not you guys agree with me down below. Now, someone found, I can't recall if I already mentioned this in the video, Tommy Rodriguez found the original, card being sold on eBay. You can sort of see here the damage is still there. It's in the same slab, etc. It's sold for $4,500 USD. So maybe that was in fact the same person. But regardless, putting the price over the damage, it's just a really shitty thing to do, irrespective of whether or not the onus has to go back on the buyer, in my opinion. It doesn't sit right with me, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. I've said that maybe 50 times now. I do apologize. But it's one of those ones that happens, right? These mistakes happen when you're at a show all day and you get distracted by people talking. It happens, right? Especially in situations where you've got people intentionally trying to deceive, because more often than not, they're trying to distract you with other things too, in order to bring your attention away from what you should be looking at. But use this as a reminder. It doesn't matter what is happening. Check out the bloody card in detail, especially if it's one of this value. And like I've been saying for 4 years now on this channel, or 3 years, whatever it's been, buy the freaking card, not the slab. Too many of you guys out there see PSA and think everything's all well and good. Even though it does say authentic on there and it has no grade, you think it's all well and good and you're all in the mindset of, well, I can buy this for really cheap so I can sell it for more money. You're thinking about the money too much. Look at the bloody card, not the slab, because the card's the thing that's relevant in the first place. And graders make mistakes, as we've seen in the past. So you should be treating their label as an opinion and nothing more. Don't treat it as fact like half the sheep or the majority of the sheep do in this space. So share your thoughts down below. I will say that again. But like I said, it's one of those mistakes that does happen. Don't hate on the buyer all that much, even though it's a bit of an embarrassing thing for them to do, especially when they've spent $7.5 bloody grand on it. But mistakes happen. You know, it happened to me at a card show in Sydney maybe 6 months ago where I bought a card that had damage on it. I didn't see the damage at the show because I got distracted with things. But conveniently, the way the seller had it packaged was that it was in a one touch and they had, you know, a team bag over the top of that one touch and they had tape on there, and where the tape was on the back of the one touch was actually where the damage was. So maybe they did that intentionally too. It was just something I ate because it was only a few $100 card. But it's stuff like this. It's guys, you can't be eating that. Go back to the seller and, you know, call them out. And if you think they've done it intentionally, name and shame them, right? There's no harm in doing that, right? Especially if you're very confident that they've done it to deceive, because chances are they've done it to others too. And the fact that it's not well known is a problem. So we need to be sort of hurting them where it counts, and that is their revenue streams. These people that are doing this dodgy stuff are not going to keep doing it if all of a sudden they get a name for themselves and people start to avoid them, because that impacts their bottom line. It impacts their ability to sell. And that's something that should be happening if they're going out and about and doing bullshit like this in order to deceive people. Now, this is nothing really new. We've seen this happen in the hobby for many, many years. But it's one of those ones, like I've sort of said over the last 3 years, that we're probably going to see a lot more of in terms of shady tactics like this. Maybe seeing it become a little bit more prevalent than what it has been. And that's primarily because obviously the hobby is struggling in terms of prices compared to 3 years ago. Like obviously the good stuff is still selling well, but you've also got people that have overpaid for cards that they haven't really sold yet, so they haven't realized their losses. You've got the economy struggling, you've got a recession potentially incoming. So people are hurting right now. And the easiest way for them to make their money back is to sort of do stuff like this. So, you know, it is what it is. Share your thoughts down below and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.